brilliant week 10, one of the best weeks of the season so far. And then we'll finish the podcast by picking every game from week 11 against the spread. And again, some of the games from the slate this week are really tasty.
You know, as a guy who's a fan of a rival NFC team, I think they're the team that scares me the most, who have the potential of being super, super dominant. So it's the Rams for me, Sam.
Yeah, this team has completely unravelled over the past month. Gone from 3-2 to 3-7. Yeah, it's almost the complete opposite last year. Last year they had so much good fortune and they played well. Don't get me wrong, but I think it was 5 or 6 games that came down to the very last play of the game pretty much, and they won that. Obviously, they said relatively injury free last year as well. This year is the complete opposite, and what a shame, because they were such a great story last year, weren't they?
You know, this could be a good game on Sunday, but two teams capable of doing really good things. But two teams with big questions, and you might see some 80-yard touchdowns and some horrible interceptions. It could be a really good game for the guys over in Spain.
And then after the great slate of games, Monday Night Football, terrible. Dallas Cowboys on primetime again. 3-5-1 Cowboys go to the 2-7 Las Vegas Raiders. Cowboys off a bye. The Cowboys are 3.5-point favourites in this game. It doesn't really matter who wins this game in the grand scheme of things.
Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the 14-Yard NFL Podcast.
The biggest year of the NFL International Series ever concludes this Sunday when the league visits Spain for the first time. And on today's podcast, we're going to talk about that matchup. And that's right, the last of a record-breaking 7 international NFL games this season will take place on Sunday afternoon when the Dolphins and the Commanders battle at the Santiago Bernabeu, which is the home of Spanish giants Real Madrid. I'm Sam Moores, you're listening to the 14 Yards NFL podcast. This is the main show from the 14 Yards Podcast Network, which is your home of British commentary on the NFL. Our network ranges from team-specific podcasts to written content on the website, and this our weekly deep dive, audio deep dive of everything happening across the league. So if you enjoy the show, please make sure to subscribe on your preferred platform, whether that's on a podcast provider, whether it's on Spotify, whether it's on YouTube, and leave us a review on those, or comment on those platforms. It really does help us reach more NFL fans, both in the UK and in Europe as a whole, as well as across the pond too. On today's show, as I said, we'll be looking ahead to that game in Madrid. We'll also be talking about some of the biggest storylines from the last 7 days. A brilliant week 10, one of the best weeks of the season so far. And then we'll finish the podcast by picking every game from week 11 against the spread. And again, some of the games from the slate this week are really tasty. So I'm really looking forward to that. Charlie Wilson will be joining me to do all that today. Obviously, he's one of the regular guests on the podcast this season. He covers the NFL and several other US sports for Reach publications like The Mirror, The Express, The Daily Star in Ireland, and coaches the game over here too as well. So yeah, it's great to have you back on the pod, mate. I actually had you to preview the first European leg of the International Series, a Dublin game. It feels like ages ago that was. Now we're 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving, which is just crazy how quickly the season's gone, hasn't it?
It's gone super fast. Yeah, it's always like, you're counting down the weeks of, oh no, we've got 7 weeks left now. We've got 6 weeks left after this week, and especially if your team isn't very good, right? Because you haven't got the playoffs, so you just got to enjoy it because it's not here for long.
Yeah, absolutely. You're lucky as a Seahawks fan that your team's one of the best teams in the league right now. As a Dolphins fan myself, it's been a hard season because the first game was the first win was on Monday Night Football as well. I've only had 2 victory Mondays all season so far. So it's been rough, but it'll be worth it in the long run. Alongside everything else in this episode, I'll also be giving you my 5 must-have players for your lineup in Fantasy Gameday. They're in the Week 11 Sunday Stars competition. I'll be doing that by myself later on. If you're new to the app, you can actually get a free £7.50 bet when you sign up with the code FULL10. That's FULL10. New users will get £7.50 in free bets added to their account after they deposit and enter their first lineup on the app. Just make sure to use the code FULL10 when you sign up. And there's lots of competitions on the app this week, more than 10. There's there's a new game in there as well, so I really recommend checking it out this week. And as always, please remember to gamble responsibly, only for 18 or over, and based in the UK or Northern Ireland. Right, we'll start a podcast by looking back at last week. We'll start in Berlin. What a game that was. It was only the third international game to go to overtime, the second year in a row that a Germany game's gone to overtime as well, which is quite an interesting little fact there. What did you make of the Berlin game on Sunday?
Yeah, it was great. It was great to see a game actually matter over in Europe. You know, we unfortunately get a few clangers, don't we? Unfortunately, but it was a great game between a strange Atlanta Falcons team. They're a team that feel like they can beat anyone, and they've shown that already this season. They perform really well. The defense is a lot better than I thought. And their offense, you know, Drake London is a player. But Jonathan Taylor is just that much better, and he really dominated the game. I think he was the big storyline from that game over in Germany and really boosted his MVP candidacy.
Yeah, career high, 286 scrimmage yards, also a franchise record there. It was also the most in international game history as well. So yeah, we've got to talk about him. He's the man of the moment at the minute. He also passed Edgerrin James for the most rushing touchdowns in Colts history. He tied the record at 64 with his 83-yard touchdown, which was his career longest. It was also the longest in NFL International Series history. But then he scored the walk-off touchdown to give the Colts the win and break that record later on in the game, of course. And this guy's also the first player in NFL history to record 4 games with at least 3 rushing touchdowns for the first 10 weeks of the season. Do you think he's got like a serious chance of winning the MVP award?
Yeah, I think he has. I don't think he should. I think it's really hard, right? Because if Jonathan Taylor's blocking, if offensive line in front of him weren't dominant, which they are, which no one's really speaking about. Last year when Saquon was in that conversation, it was all how dominant the Eagles' offensive line was. Well, this Colts one is nearly just as good. It is fantastic. Quentin Nelson's had a really good bounce back year after a few difficult years, to be fair to him. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor, the thing is, right, when he gets the gap open up for him, he just hits that gap and he has the capability to make it work from there. Once he's through that gap, he's going to run over linebackers, he's going to run past linebackers and run through safeties. He's such a great player. But the credit should go to the Colts offensive line, and it won't because it's not sexy to do that. Is he in the conversation to win the MVP? Sure, only because there's not many good candidates. Drake May's probably the favorite right now. And even he's been great, but you know, he's had
I think it's Stafford personally. I think it's Stafford.
Yeah, Stafford. Yeah, that's my MVP also, 100%.
Yeah.
But I think Jonathan Taylor has to be in the conversation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Also, we mentioned the Colts offensive line. Of course, there's the Protector of the Year award that'll be given for the first time this year as well. So I'd be shocked if a Colts offensive lineman doesn't win that. I really would. Elsewhere, there were important wins for the Patriots, obviously, and the Rams, the 2 guys in the MVP conversation. They beat the 6-win Bucks and Niners, and also the 7-win Eagles and Chargers beat the Packers and Steelers in potential playoff preview matchups in prime time. Though wouldn't be surprised to see both those games be wildcard games, to be honest with you, with the way that the seedings work out. Obviously, of those wins, you know, the Patriots, the Rams, the Eagles, the Chargers, which of those performances stood out to you most this weekend?
From the Patriots, I mean, it's got to be the Rams, right? They score so almost effortlessly. I think Matt Stafford is playing his best football we've seen, and from a year when, you know, Matt Stafford, the Rams were ready to move on from Matt Stafford. They was going to sign Aaron Rodgers, and Stafford was like, I can do another year, come back and is playing the best football we've seen. Like, he has been absolutely fantastic. Devontae Adams has been a great signing. Puka just does his thing. Yeah, the Rams, you know, as a guy who's a fan of a rival NFC team, I think they're the team that scares me the most, who have the potential of being super, super dominant. So it's the Rams for me, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. In the early window, there was a big upset that certainly meant something to me. The Dolphins finally beat the Buffalo Bills after losing 7 straight games, including the postseason, to Buffalo. Yeah, that was crazy. Seeing that, and Buffalo, they tend to have one of these games a season where they just completely don't turn up. We thought they had that against the Falcons. This is the second one. Do you think it was more that they spent so much energy trying to beat the Chiefs 2 weeks ago that they kind of let their eyes on the ball here. Is there some credit you could give the Dolphins? What do you think about that game?
Yeah, I mean, Miami's offense, it's such a cliche, but on any given Sunday, they can score on anyone. Devon Chain.
Well, both the Falcons and the Dolphins who've beaten the Bills, both of them, they're exactly the same in that aspect, yeah.
Similar teams where they, Atlanta could lose 30-0 to the Panthers and then beat the Bills a few weeks later. The Dolphins are in that boat as well, right? But I think because it's a division game, we know each other very well.
Yeah.
The Dolphins just played a lot better, and the Bills, it's frustrating, right? Because it feels like the AFC is there for them this year. Everyone around them is struggling, apart from Indianapolis. It feels like they can really, really go for it this year, and they're just not. They don't look like the same team they have in recent years. It's still early here, but there are weaknesses in Buffalo, and they'll be frustrated by what they showed on tape because a lot of teams are going to see what Miami did and try to do the exact same. And Buffalo's defense needs to improve. Josh Allen, is fantastic, but has he got a number one wide receiver to throw to? Keon Coleman is so frustrating. They have issues, Buffalo.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this game, the Falcons game, if they can't run the football, they're kind of they're kind of screwed. That's the way it's been for the Patriots. If you can, it was the same. Sorry, for the Bills, it was the same in the Patriots game as well. If you can stop James Cook, the Bills are really vulnerable. Yeah. The Chiefs couldn't really stop James Cook. They also, their offensive line obviously missing loads of players. The Bills took advantage of that and just rushed the hell out of Mahomes.
Yeah.
With this Bills team, again, if they can't run the football, I agree with you. I am worried about them because they've won their 2 games. They would have been targeting this season, saying we've got to beat the Ravens, we've got to beat the Chiefs. The problem is there's so many more contenders in the AFC now. You've already lost to one of them in your own division in New England. That is a concern. It'd be fascinating to see how they got on against the Bucks this week as well. Obviously not a AFC game, but certainly it's another 6-win team. That game's going to be brilliant. And then finally, there were 2 remarkable comebacks in that early window as well. The Texans kept their season alive, coming back from 19 points down to beat the Jags. They've got 26 unanswered points in that fourth quarter, and Davis Mills was the highest scoring quarterback in fantasy football this week, which is just crazy. Maybe they can make a run when CJ Stroud comes back because of how good that defense is. I've been saying for ages that defense will win them games, and Nico Collins is healthy now and he's looking great as well. So I wouldn't cut them out at all getting a wildcard spot because they do play a lot of teams in and around that. If they can get a few wins, certainly wouldn't count them out. And then the other comeback would see the end of Giants head coach Brian Daboll. The Giants were leading 17-7 with 5 minutes left in the third, but then Jackson Dart took a big hit scrambling for a first down and fumbled. He then left the game with concussion, pretty much ruled out straight away. He was replaced by Russell Wilson for the remainder of the game, and the Giants outscored 17-3 in the final 20 minutes of the game, falling to 2-8 on the season. And then early on Monday, it was announced that Daboll had been fired after 4 seasons with the team. They, of course, reached the playoffs in his first season. They won that wildcard game against the Minnesota Vikings, led by Kirk Cousins. But the team followed that up with 2 losing seasons. Obviously, it started 2-8 this year as well. That's the third season in a row they've started 2-8. So I think we were all expecting Daboll to go at some point. I think the only way that probably would have kept his job was if Jackson Dart got them there about the wildcard places. That's clearly not going to happen. But if you had told me that he'd be gone a week ago, I would have been surprised. But the manner that they lost on Sunday after already losing 2 games like that, obviously the Broncos won really recent memories. They've lost games from likely winning positions. The Cowboys won as well in 3 times this season. Yeah, it didn't take me by surprise on Monday seeing that Daboll was fired. What's your reaction to this?
It felt inevitable that he was going to be fired. I've seen Brian Burns and Russell Wilson and a few Giants players speak like they really, really wanted Daboll to stay. But on the field, it didn't look like it. They were giving up. They weren't playing hard. It's as simple as that. They didn't look like they wanted to win games at some point, and that's really hard to do in the NFL. And it's some of the effort I was seeing was just shocking. It was like Chicago cared more about that game. And when you see that as a fan, especially in New York, those fans are not going to stand for that. They knew the writing was on the wall for Daboll. The move has been made, and it's like, okay, I mean, I guess, but what's the goal this season now? I mean, Jackson Dart's non-concussion protocol. You keep him out a few weeks. How do Mike Kafka's going to be interim. It's just an absolute mess. You would have thought they would have kept him until the rest of the season, but at the same time, he wasn't going to be there, so you might as well make the move and I guess see what you have in Kafka. But
Yeah,
then,
exactly. He's got head coach interviews in the past. That's exactly what it is. Obviously, he's also called the offensive plays for the majority of the Dable tenure as well. He didn't last year, but for 3 out of the 4 years, I think he has called plays for the Giants as well. So again, he's had head coach interviews. So
yeah, they
makes sense to have a look at
blocked
him.
a lot of teams
Yeah.
who were trying to get him as OC. They blocked a lot of those
Yeah.
interviews and made him assistant head coach.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting as well is that Joe Shane will remain for at least the remainder of the season as general manager as well. We're interested to see what happens with him. I get they might not want to look like they are cleaning house, but if he is still the GM by the time the combine comes, I think that would be a major error because I feel like these two are a package, and some of Shane's decisions have really hurt this team as well. Obviously, the most notable one was deciding not to match the Eagles' offer for Saquon Barkley. That was the major howler there. So that's an interesting one there. What do you think will happen with the GM?
Yeah, he should go, and he probably should go now. Really, what do you gain from keeping him in? You can't make any moves right now. Trade deadline's gone. Let a interim or at least someone within the division look towards the future to make these picks next year because it's going to be huge that they nail these picks. Joe Shane isn't going to be the one making those picks, so why keep him on the roster? In the staff, excuse me. He has drafted poorly. He's made a number of mistakes trading players away. Brian Burns has been great for them, but I mean, what's the end goal for drafting a trade for Brian Burns? You're not a Super Bowl ready team. You're not even close. He should go.
Yeah, and then obviously the other notable thing coming out of the Giants this week is that Jameis Winston's been raised to QB2 on the depth chart, meaning that he'll start this week, moving ahead of Russell Wilson, which I think we've all been calling for because at least Jameis is going to produce something on offense. You'd like to think with, rather than Russell Wilson. I think I'm surprised it's taken this long for him to get a game. To be honest with how they started an offense before going to Jackson Dart. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays against the Packers on Sunday. All right, let's move on to talking about this Madrid game now between the Dolphins and the Commanders. This game coming into the season looked really, really appealing. It's not quite worked out that way. It's Washington some of the most horrific injury luck I've seen. The amount of starters Washington are missing right now, crazy. The Dolphins had a terrible start to the season as well. But there are still some superstars in this game for that Madrid crowd. And you've got two teams in this that are coming into this game in drastically different moods as well, which is the really interesting thing. As we mentioned earlier, for Miami, the mood's really high, despite only having won 3 wins because they finally beat the Bills, and that was they won all these games. Again, 7 straight games, 7 straight losses against the Bills. For Washington, it's the exact opposite. They've just lost their 5th straight game in a season. They were supposed to be a contender this season. It's just not worked out. They're now sitting at 3-7. It was supposed to be a competitive season for them. It's not the case. And again, they are one of the most injured teams in the league, and it's got worse this week. Jaden Daniels will miss another week. There'll definitely be no Terry McLaurin as well. Both those guys have already been ruled out. McLaurin will miss his 3rd straight game due to a quad injury. That already saw him miss weeks 4 to 7. He came back in the Chiefs game and then re-aggravated that in the Chiefs game. So he's only played 1 game since week 3. So yeah, that's not great for them. Luckily, Deebo Samuel's been playing great, but it's nice to have both of them. And again, Deebo's never really been a receiver 1. Now he is. Daniels, on the other hand, he will miss his 2nd straight game, but there's optimism there because they've not placed him on IR. So the optimism is that he'll be back for the Broncos game after their bye week after the Madrid game. Not placing him on IR. But again, that dislocated elbow did not look nice. So we'll be surprised to see if it is longer. But again, they got lucky there that it wasn't a more serious injury because it looked a lot worse than it is. They didn't not have to have surgery or anything, which is what was quoted beforehand. Whether that's wise or not, bringing him back is another question because I think it would be dumb to risk him. Bear in mind, he's been playing hurt all year, and and the team season's lost. Yeah, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but is there any point playing that Jane Daniels the rest of the year at this point?
No, of course there's not.
No.
There's almost zero upside and a lot of downside to it, right? They're horrible on defense. Their general manager did a terrible general manager, by the way, who was seen as this, the next great thing. He's done a terrible job in free agency. Javon Kinlaw contract was hideous.
They're the oldest team in the league as well.
That's why they're injured. They're very old. And they've got a young quarterback who's in his rookie contract. That's the time to make, go in with these young players, build a core, not sign 32-year-olds who can't stay healthy for 4 games in a row. I didn't understand the way they built around Jaden Daniels, and they put him in a situation where he shouldn't come back this season because they've won, 3 games? No, he shouldn't come back at all. If there's no upside, they need to go again next year, unfortunately. But, this could be a good game on Sunday, but 2 teams capable of doing really good things. But 2 teams with big questions, and you might see some 80-yard touchdowns and some horrible interceptions. It could be a really good game for the guys over in Spain.
Yeah. I think it's got that vibe. So McLaurin will travel with the team. He's not playing. Daniels will not travel with the team. Deron Payne, obviously their star defensive tackle, he'll also miss this game due to suspension. He's been awarded a 1-game ban after directing a punch toward Amon-Ra St. Brown in the game against the Lions last week. They're also down the 2 top corners, Marshawn Lattimore and Trey Amos as well. Yeah, this team has completely unraveled over the past month. They've gone from 3-2 to 3-7. Yeah, it's almost the complete opposite last year. Last year they had so much good fortune and they played well. Don't get me wrong, but I think it was 5 or 6 games that came down to the very last play of the game, pretty much, and they won that. Obviously, they said relatively injury free last year as well. This year, it's complete opposite, and what a shame because they were such a great story last year, weren't they?
It was so refreshing because Washington have been pretty much a laughing stock. They've sort of been the Cleveland Browns of the NFC, really. Never taken seriously, always making ridiculous moves, and never having hope, really. And Jaden Daniels, just in that 1 draft pick, almost single-handedly took them to an NFC Championship game and, beat Detroit, straight up, beat one of the best teams in the league. And like I say, this offseason, they had such a good year, so much money in cap space, and spent it horribly. Debo's been good. I didn't understand that move at all. The Javon Kinlaw contract was horrible.
Luckily, the Larry Mutantos worked. That's the good one. But
yeah. Those kind of moves where, you get good players. He's old, but he's not old, but he's the kind of player who could be with Daniels for 5-7 years and, be a really good player. Make more moves like that. Don't go with these old players who are past the best and you're paying them like they are in the best. It's a shame because, Daniels has 2 more years on his rookie deal, and that's great, but it seems like a real missed opportunity this year, especially in a bit of a wobbly NFC, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I think obviously there has been a ton of misfortune. You mentioned it earlier. The defense has been really held this team back as well. It's been a major problem. Last season they were 3rd against the pass. This year they're the league's worst pass defense through 10 games. So you can go from 3rd to 32nd. There's obviously a massive difference there. They've also allowed the second most touchdowns. They've forced the tied second least amount of turnovers as well, so not getting the turnovers there. This is a really bad defense, and also they've missed the 3rd most tackles behind the Bengals and the Steelers as well. So they haven't been really well coached, and that's why Dan Quinn's made a move. He's fired his defensive coordinator, Joe Witt Jr. He's taken over the play calling for the rest of the season. Obviously, I think it's a smart move for this game as well, especially because they're missing so many tackles, and they need to clean up the operation because they're playing against 2 guys that's 2 of the hardest guys to bring down in Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle in the entire league. Achane has the highest explosive run percentage of all running backs with at least 100 carries. He's got a higher explosive run percentage than Jonathan Taylor, who's had so many explosive runs so far this year. And James Cook as well. He's ahead of both those guys, and he's got the 2nd most yards off the contact behind Jonathan Taylor as well. And Waddle is the 4th in the league in receiving since Tyreek Hill went down as well. We saw on Sunday just how dangerous those 2 players can be. They had over 300 yards, I think, between the 2 of them, or at least if not close. It makes sense to try and change something because with how bad, especially in space, that Washington defense has been, something has to change, right?
It does, yeah. Unfortunately, that Washington's defensive adjustments were so poor. Offenses were just, making one move across the line of scrimmage and isolating, a slot receiver or Devon A-Chain on Bobby Wagner. And Bobby Wagner is my favorite player of all time, but he's 36 years old and looks 36 years old. It looks like he's running in concrete shoes. He's getting beat almost every 5 plays. It's tough to watch. And like I say, Devon A-Chain is a man he'll be going against this week. It's not a good matchup for number 54 in the middle for Washington. And unfortunately, the guy next to him, in Frankie Louvu, who's a good player, is also not playing very well. They can't rush the passer.
The Von Miller signing. Like, why are you signing Von Miller? You mentioned obviously, why are you signing Von Miller to be your premier pass rusher? You need a pass rusher in the first place. You lost your main pass rusher back to Dallas, and then you try and replace him with Von Miller, who's just the most unreliable player you can think of. It's a great one occasionally, more not than before now. More often not than before now. But some of the moves they made, but again, I agree with you, just made absolutely no sense. Interesting scenario here. With the reunion between Dan Quinn and Mike McDaniel. Of course, McDaniel was an assistant on Quinn's staff in Atlanta. He was assistant with Kyle Shanahan before leaving with Shanahan to become the offensive coordinator in San Francisco. So obviously these guys know each other really well. So again, it'd be fascinating to see Quinn calling plays for the first time in a while against an offense that he knows well. It's also a really good opportunity for Mike McDaniel as well to build his case to keep his job. Obviously, he's been given to the end of the season to keep his job, following Stephen Ross's decision to move on from long-time general manager Chris Greer, who I actually believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think he is the longest tenured GM in NFL history to not win a playoff game, which, if not second, which is crazy. So it's an interesting scenario because this team is clearly playing for Mike McDaniel. We've seen that the two of the last 3 weeks they've put out amazing game plans against the Falcons and the Bills, and there was a Thursday night game against the Ravens where they had a great first half and then completely crumbled after they were in that game for the first half and then crumbled after everything didn't go their way. They really handed it to Buffalo, and before that, McDaniel has really adjusted the way he calls plays, and they've put an emphasis on protecting Tua more. They're telling Tua you can push the ball downfield, be more aggressive on third down. We don't mind if you throw an interception just because we want to get something out of his offense. He's very much changing what his 2 interceptions of the week were literally third and long arm punts, which is that's what McDaniel literally told him to do. So change it up and bringing in. They've not got a tight end on this team anymore. They've lost Darren Waller. They've lost Julian Hill. So they're bringing in 6 offensive linemen a lot of the time as well. McDaniel's really coaching for his job. Fascinating scenario here because you can see the pros and cons, keep them or not, isn't it? It's a more complex scenario than people think it is, I think.
Yeah, I think with Mike McDaniel, and I think I had this worry when Mike McDonald, similar name, came to Seattle as a really hotshot coordinator. I think it's such a different job to go from offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator to head coach, right? And I think Mike McDaniel might be one of the best, at least, offensive play callers in the league. Now, does that translate to him being a great head coach? This year says no. Whilst the team has played for him, and that's absolutely true, the performances have just not been good enough. I think at the same time, though, the move that Greer has made has let him down. But I think McDaniel's quality, because he's a really good coach. Moving on from him and trying to find a better head coach is going to be tough. He's a real talent. It's going to be, I think, every game from this point on is really important. Can you rally this team and make us at least a respectable team again? If he does that, I think he deserves to stay in the job. Yeah,
I think I agree. But I think potentially he does, because if you look at it, his record when Tua is playing is really good.
Very good.
The problem is that yeah, exactly. Again, I think they won 8 games last year. I think Tua missed 7 of those games, and they were playing for playoff spot in week 18. Imagine if Tua played the whole season last year. They could have had 3 straight playoff bursts. I think that's why Stephen Ross chose to keep both Greer and McDaniel on for another year, was because Tua was missing. Tua's played the whole year this year. He has led the league in interceptions. A lot of the time, he has had a poorer year, but a lot of the time, I think it's overblown that, to be honest with you. But the roster this year is not as good as it has been in the previous couple of years. I think that's the main thing with this team, really. But if you look at it, there's a clear advantage of having him as the offensive play caller. That you can't deny that. I think it's a bit like Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. If you look at him, he gets quite predictable a lot, McDaniel, and I think that is a thorn in his side. But he does look over over his head a couple of times a year. I'm not going to criticize his personality because the players like him. Whether it's right, that it's such a. I think it is such a fascinating thing. And then you look at the schedule the Dolphins have got. They're going to win probably 3 or 4 more games. They've got a really easy schedule coming up, so they're going to play themselves out of a high draft pick, which means Tua's got a contract that's really hard to get out of next year as well. So realistically, you're not looking at a reset till 2027 anyway. So it's a really fascinating scenario what the Dolphins are going to do. And the problem with the head coach as well is that Stephen Ross is not afraid to make a bold move. In fact, he's one of the owners that gives his GMs really license to play with anything in free agency. And then some of the head coaches, like he's made it really public that he's wanted Jim Harbaugh in the party. He tampered to try and get Sean Payton to come to Miami, putting him and Tom Brady, somehow both of them on the same boat. Obviously, that lost the first round draft pick. Problem is, he's wanted both of those guys. Problem is, both of those guys are now in the AFC with other teams, so he can't go back to the 2 options he's always wanted. So it's a fascinating thing for him. It must kill him seeing those 2 coaches in the AFC now. And again, you're not going to get a draft pick to pick a Fernando Mendoza or a Ty Simpson in the draft like you might do a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, I agree with you. It's a fascinating couple of weeks seeing what this team is going to do, because I think this team this year has really screwed itself over by not going full reset, because they're too good to be bad and they're too bad to be good. They're very much fascinating thing. As for picking this game, the Dolphins are the home team. It's a neutral site, of course, so they are 2.5 point favourites in this game. Obviously, no surprise of how banged up Washington are. Which way are you going to go here, Charlie?
Yeah, that's an easy one for me. That's Miami all day long. Washington's defense, until they can show they can stop anything. I think they've given up 44 points in the last 2, 44 points each in the last 2 games, 88 points in 2 games. Miami all day.
Yeah, I agree with you. And again, I think you look at the Dolphins' next couple of games. I think they've got the Saints. They got. There's a chance they could be 7-7. Sorry, 6-7, leading into a game on Monday Night Football against the Steelers. They go 7-7. That's crazy to think of. But it's just the way it works out. The AFC has got a really, really easy schedule this year. The Patriots could honestly win 14 games.
Yeah.
The way it's looking, which is just crazy. And I think that will potentially cost this team. The one thing the Dolphins haven't done in the Stephen Ross ownership is blown it up completely. He's always kept one head coach, one GM around. There's a real good article on The Athletic I read this week about that. If you want to go check it out. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see if they do it again. I personally would probably blow it all up, but I don't think that's going to happen. But again,
unfortunately, this is the worst year to do that, because this NFL draft is terrible. It's the worst draft
also,
I've ever seen.
Again, there's coaching candidates as well. Like I said, there's been a Peyton or Harbaugh in previous years that he's wanted. There's not that anymore. You may get a Mike Tomlin if things go south. You may get a John Harbaugh if things go south. But realistically, the move that he's going to want to make isn't going to be there. So that's fascinating too. Okay, let's go on to our picks for the week 11. This is a really big week slate. This week, obviously, there's only 2 teams on a bye. So we've got a huge early slate of 7 games. We've got a late slate of 4 games, and then obviously you've got 3 primetime games as well. And we'll start with Thursday Night Football tonight. We just mentioned the Patriots. They host the Jets tonight on Thursday Night Football. They are 13.5 point favourites over the New York Jets. as a huge spread, but it's a spread you expect when you see an 8-2 team play a 2-7 team, right?
Yeah. But the New England Patriots being that much of a favorite just gives me like horrible flashbacks of how dominant they were for so long. And it's starting to feel like, is this start of another era for New England with Drake May, who just looks fantastic. All of the worries I had about him in the draft, his terrible footwork, his boneheaded mistakes at times, just gone out the window, and he's just now playing really sound football. A few mistakes here and there, but he's a fantastic, fantastic quarterback. It's hard to pick against the Patriots here. I'm going to go New England.
I'm going to go for the Jets to come within 13. Bold. Bold. I don't think they're bad. I think it's... I think there are a lot... I think there are probably 4 or 5 worse teams than the Jets in this league. They can run the football really well.
Yep.
Their defense can stop the run, even without Quinn and Williams last week. They still did a really, really good job against Quinton Judkins. It was run over other teams. I don't think they're that bad. It's a Thursday night game. Again, it's normally low scoring. It's normally closer. It's a division game. I think the Patriots will win. Whether they win by 2 scores or not is another story. So I'm going to go for the Jets to come within the 13 points, and we'll see what happens there. I think it'll be maybe 9-10 points. Patriots win. I just think, again, last week was a prime example. The Broncos should have killed the Raiders, and I got that one wrong last week, I think. So I normally go with the away team on Thursday, but we'll just to see if this is a big spread, and I'm going to do that again. Okay, we'll go over to the 6 p.m. slate now. We'll start with the NFC South, and all NFC South game between the Falcons and the Panthers. The 3-6 Falcons are 3.5 point favorites over the 5-5 Panthers, which is a bit of a surprise. But then when you look at the way the Panthers looked last week against the Saints, maybe not. The Falcons, they are in quite literally probably disarray now. I think they've lost 4 games in a row. I think they've lost. After that, they beat the Bills after their bye, and then since then, I think they've lost 4 games in a row. And now you've got a division game. Really interesting scenario for them. Michael Penix doesn't look great in recent weeks. Neither is Bryce Young. One of them's got to win this game. Falcons 3.5 point favorites. Where do you see this one go?
Yeah, I'm going Atlanta. I think Atlanta, I said earlier on the podcast, but they can beat anyone on their day. They're not playing terribly. They're just, a few things go against them here and there. They're so inconsistent.
The offensive coaching is terrible as well. I think a
awful.
lot of, all I'm seeing is fires at Robinson, and I think that eventually will come as well.
Yeah, him and Zach Robinson and Bobby Slowick at Houston, they were like these former PFF guys who were seen as like the future of offensive play calling, and now probably going to both be out of jobs by the end of the season. Both awful jobs. Penix, great, but again, is the system really, is it hurting him? Even the way they use Bijan Robinson, like, their offensive line is really good. Just keep feeding him the ball.
Exactly. In the red zone on the Berlin game, they get giving the ball to Tyler Algier.
Yeah. And Algier's good, but Bijan's generational. Like, you just give that guy the ball, he will win you games like Jonathan. Bijan Robinson's every bit as good as Jonathan Taylor. It's not in the same opportunity. Bryce Young it's starting to concern me. I think he is playing for his future on the Panthers right now. He will probably be like the Sam Darnold, who will probably leave the team and try to reignite his career somewhere else, because it's just, the inconsistencies are just a killer. I can't pick the Panthers here. I have to go Atlanta.
I'm going for Atlanta as well. It being in Atlanta is a big factor as well. They're normally pretty good at home, so I'm going to go for them. With Bryce Young, I'm concerned as well, because the end of last year he was so good, and that's the thing, is like, I did a whole big like statistical deep dive on his end of the season last year. Again, he was a top 10 quarterback at the end of last year. Pretty much after this point of the season, after there was the Munich game last year. From then onwards, he was brilliant. The Panthers had a bye, and he was brilliant. He had a couple of games where he was terrible, came back in, and then had a few fourth quarter comebacks where he sort of found his groove a little bit earlier in the season. And then the last couple of weeks, again, it's just not been there for him. So that is a little bit of a concern there, because the offensive line's good. They've got a run game. Yeah, and Tedros McMillan has been a pretty good receiver in his first year as well. The problem is they took away Adam Thielen and Jalen Coker missed it. So the two receivers he had chemistry of coming into this year, he didn't have any of them to start this year. He's built chemistry with McMillan, but that's why I'm like a little bit apprehensive. Is like you quite literally took away your quarterback's two best weapons. Obviously, one of them was an injury, but like the Adam Thielen trade, I hated that from day one, and I feel like that's really hurt Bryce Young. So that's why I'm going to give him the benefit of doubt. I don't think they can move on from them this year. I'll give them another year personally, but yeah, it is slightly concerning. I do agree with you there. Okay, the main game on Sky this week sees the Bills host another team in the NFC South, the Bucks. Both teams are 6-3. The Bills are 5.5 point favourites in this game. Obviously, both teams coming off a loss in Buffalo, as I said. This one should be fun. I have no idea who wins this game.
Yeah, no, me neither. Two teams very similar, right? Two teams of scoring 50 points and then two teams capable of shooting themselves in the foot. I'm going to take Tampa here just because they really, really intrigue me. Their defense doesn't look like it should be good, but is. Jamal Dean is playing incredibly well. Probably one of the most, underrated players of the season so far. He's been locked down. I'll say Mika Egbuka's back now playing as well as he is. I'm shocked at how well he's playing. I'm taking Tampa just because they really intrigue me. In Buffalo, I need to see more consistency. What's killing Buffalo is not having that number one receiver. You can just tell Josh Allen is just not feeling like Josh Allen right now. He's trying to do a little bit too much. They really need someone to
number one corner as well. Like Jalen Waddle killed Maxwell Hairston last week.
Yes.
Killed him. So that obviously you're looking, a rookie on rookie with a Egbuka and Hairston there. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, no, I'm gonna go for Buffalo. Sorry, I'm going for Tampa Bay too. I think their defense is the best of the two defenses. Their defense might be the best unit of all of them. I had Jamal Dean in the All Pro team. I did a mid-season All Pro team. I did a couple weeks ago. He has been playing to another level. They're getting the pass rush there as well. The Bucks that they somehow always generate, and they're really, really good at stopping the run. Again, I mentioned if Buffalo can't get the run going, they're kind of screwed. So I don't know if they win or not, but to come within 5 points, I'd love it because I think it's gonna be a close game because I don't think Buffalo are gonna be able to rely on James Cook. So yeah, give me Tampa Bay here. Different game on Channel 5. The game on Channel 5 sees the Jags host the Chargers. The Chargers going to Jacksonville as 3.5 point favourites after their Sunday Night Football win over the Steelers. That really impressive fashion to go 7-3 on the season. The Jags are obviously a bit of disarray they're in at the minute. We've mentioned that a lot, but Ryan Thomas not the same. Travis Hunter's out for the season now. The Chargers, who are banged up themselves, are playing the Jags at the right time. 3.5 point favourites going cross country, 6 p.m. window. Interesting game. Let's see, where do you see this one go?
Yeah, I'm picking the Chargers here. It's so unfortunate with the injuries they have on the offensive line, losing both of their tackles, because it really does feel like this Chargers team could do something if they had both those guys. It's just, man, it's going to be tough to protect Justin Herbert with essentially two backups, right? They traded for a former first round pick, I think. I can't remember.
They traded for Trevor Penning.
Trevor Penning,
he didn't start. Yeah, he didn't start on Sunday either. So
yeah.
So that's the interesting thing. But again, he's been playing guard, so
yeah,
it's for the same. So it is an interesting thing. They're on tackle 4 and 5 now. It's not even like 3 and 4. They're on 4 and 5, which is just crazy. But Jacksonville are banged up, and they're not getting the turnovers they were early in the season as well. So they're kind of we don't know what we're going to see. I think 3.5 for the away team for the Chargers is about right. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm going with Chargers here. I think I struggle to see how the Jaguars are going to stop the trio of receivers in Los Angeles. I think they have too much firepower. Justin Herbert is to say that his tackles have gone down, playing some good football without those guys. I can see them putting on a lot of points, and I cannot see how Jacksonville matches that. So I'm picking the Chargers.
Yeah, he's getting the ball up really quickly. Jacksonville, I think they're the second worst team in the league defending tight ends. So look for Aronde Gadsden Jr. to have a massive game. That's the thing there. I think it's a bad matchup for the Jags. So yeah, give me the Chargers here, -3.5 as well. The other game you can watch on Sky Sports this week sees the Vikings host the Bears in the early window. The Vikings are 3.5-point favourites. This one's on Sky Sports Plus. NFC North games, anything can happen. Bears keep on winning. The Vikings played well recent weeks. Brian Flores' defense has stepped up massively, and Jason McCarthy has looked good in the last couple of weeks as well. This should be a really fun game as well. Vikings 3.5-point favourites.
Yeah, these are like two yin and yang teams. It feels like the Vikings record should be a lot better than what it is. It feels like the Bears record should be a lot worse than what it is because Chicago are not playing well, but finding a way to win games. Fair play to Ben Johnson, who has done a really good job. Caleb Williams, not convincing to me at all, but again, doing enough to win games, having some great plays here and there, making Caleb feel comfortable in the offense. He still needs to
off
stay
script. He's been incredible. It's just the on script stuff. The Jared Goff
always,
stuff you expect. That's the thing, isn't it? It's like
that's always been
expect
Caleb's thing.
Yeah, yep. You expect in this offense, you expect him to be, and yeah, is it two very different styles of quarterback?
Yeah,
that's the The
thing with Caleb is that he wants to play backyard football. It's kind of like Russell Wilson in that respect, where he feels most comfortable, where the play's broken down, I can make something happen now. You don't need to do that, Caleb. Trust the guy's system; it works. So I'm going to pick them this game. Minnesota. I mean, JJ McCarthy. Starting to get worried, Sam. Starting to get worried.
Really? There's plays. He makes plays, but then there are also but then he's a rookie. It's kind of like he is essentially a rookie. Like
arm strength just isn't there. Accuracy just not good enough. In intermediate decision making. I understand he's a rookie, and it's going to take some time. This is a team that's ready to win now.
That's it. Aaron Rodgers in this team. That's the thing, isn't it? Like
Sam Darnold in this team, Daniel Jones in this team. We were talking about a potential 13-win team and a potential deep playoff team. It's disappointing. Again, it's like the Commanders. It feels like a lost year when it could have been a lot better.
Yeah, the thing with McCarthy as well is that most of his mistakes have come when targeting Justin Jefferson. So obviously he's trying to force Justin Jefferson. That the ball, which is the thing. I mean, I'd probably do the same. if I'd definitely force Justin Jefferson the ball, but it's like, yeah. But it is an interesting thing to watch. I'm gonna go Chicago as well. I'm not confident though. I'm really not. I think the Vikings can win this game. I think it'll be probably a 1 or 2 point game. So do I think Minnesota win by 4? No. So that's why I'm going to go to Chicago. But I'm not confident with that pick whatsoever. Right, we'll go over to New York now. Obviously, we mentioned earlier in the podcast, Jameis Winston will start for the Giants. They host the Packers. The Packers go into the Meadowlands 6.5-point favorites over the Giants. Green Bay, man, this really. I mean, Matt LaFleur has got. I mean, why the hell they ran up to the line of scrimmage on 4th and 1 when they had over a minute and a half and timeouts left? Like I was watching that. I just came out from the gym. I was watching that game on Monday night, and I was just like, "What?" Probably because I think the Packers probably would have gone scored if they took their time rather than that play was just so rushed. And Green Bay, and then again the offense is so inconsistent. The defense plays so well.
Yeah,
so, 2 weeks in a row, the defense has played so well. Obviously, I think if you look at, I think the average 6 points in the last 2 games. The defense has been playing so well. This offense is a concern. They're playing one of the worst teams in the league, trending in a bad direction in the Giants. That's why the Packers are 6.5-point favorites. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, it feels like the perfect game for Green Bay, right? To just okay, let's get this right now. We've got a good record. We've got a great defense. We just need to stop being silly on offense and making bad mistakes. And Matt LaFleur is making some really, really strange decisions, not just in his play calling, but the usage of the timeouts, not running the ball when he should be doing, not helping out Jordan Love. The wide receivers are really letting Jordan Love down, who's taking a lot of criticism. I don't think he's playing too badly. I think Christian Watson needs to catch the ball.
It's the fact that his bad plays look terrible. That's the thing. There are not many of them. is the fact that there's a bit of a joke on social media that it basically throws every interception blind. You're just like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna bounce and bounce and bounce and throw it out the field, and that's what he does. There's not many of them. There's really not. It's just that when he does make a bad play, it looks terrible.
And because they're all close games, it's like that mistake's like a killer. But if you're up 3 scores, if your wide receivers can catch a ball, then it's not that big of a deal. Sam Darnold is making some wild mistakes last week, but no one's speaking about that because they got 2 touchdowns on defense.
Yeah.
I am going to pick. I'm going to pick them, but I don't feel good about it.
Me too. I thought this is a Josh Jacobs game. I think the Giants can't stop the run very well. And the defense line is just not playing well. To be honest with you, the talent they've got on it is not playing well.
The reason I don't feel good about it is because Jameis Winston is one of those guys where he can just go off and like random, throw a 60-yard touchdown, and if Packers struggle on offense, like it could be one of those games.
I think that there'll be turnovers in this game. The Packers defense has been waiting for turnovers all season. So one thing, obviously they've gone from producing so many to producing not very many at all. This may be a sort of get right game in that aspect for the defense, which is again is playing playing really well this Green Bay defense. So we'll see what happens there. I'm going to go for Green Bay 6.5 as well. Right, we'll go to the AFC North now. The Steelers host the Bengals. Steelers are 5.5-point favorites. Obviously, this is a rematch of the Thursday night game that happened a couple of weeks ago that the Bengals did win. Obviously with Joe Flacco. The Bengals coming off a bye in this game. Still Joe Flacco. We don't expect Burrow for another 2 or 3 weeks. They open up his window to practice, so probably 3 weeks time you'll see Joe Burrow. You'd like to think. If they win this game, I think if they lose this game, but if they win this game, the Bengals are certainly still in it. They'll only be a game back on, even half a game back on the Steelers if they win this game. So huge game. The Steelers are 5.5-point favorites. It's in Pittsburgh, but that's quite a lot. Bear in mind how close last game was.
Yeah, the Unk Bowl Part 2 after that really good performance from both Rodgers and Flacco in the first game a few weeks ago. If you looking at this game on paper, it kind of feels like, oh, that's not going to be a fun game to watch. But the first game was great a few weeks ago. It feels like Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco both now hits might be catching up with them. They are starting to make mistakes where they look like a 40-year-old man trying to evade pressure, which they can't do, making throws which are not capable of making anymore. The offenses are both really starting to struggle now, and the firepower Cincinnati has, they should be able to keep up with anyone, but that defense is it genuinely might be the worst defense that I've ever seen. It's in the NFL, of course. It's really bad.
If you look at the numbers, they can't stop running backs, they can't stop tight ends. Like they're the worst in the league at stopping running backs and tight ends, and then the receivers have not been very good job either. It's like they literally
and they have probably one of the best pass rushers in the league, but he can't do anything because they're playing from behind, so teams are just running the ball on them. It's like it must be so frustrating for Trey Hendrickson. Like, why did you guys not trade me? It's pointless keeping him on the team. We could have had an extra first-round pick, even a second-round pick. I'm gonna pick the Steelers here with I don't feel good about it at all. And if I can, Sam, I won't watch a minute of this game because it could be not very fun.
I'm going to go for the Bengals to come within the 5 points because they're off the bye. I think that's the extra week might give them a bit of help. And obviously the Steelers, it was bad. It was bad on Sunday Night Football.
I wish the Bengals traded for Jameis Winston. It would have been so. There would have been so much.
Well, we said that. We said that like 7 or 8 weeks ago. We said go and trade for Jameis Winston, and now he's starting in the league. For the Giants. It's like, I mean, Flacco's played well. It's just they needed to make that move weeks before.
Yeah,
they did. That's Flacco's been really good.
He has been good.
I don't think he's been really good. I don't think he's turned the ball over, which is I think he had like 8 or 9 turnovers in Cleveland. It's crazy. That and then the final game in the early window sees the Titans host the Texans. Titans have a bye 1-8 before the bye. the Texans are 6.5-point favorites going to Tennessee. It's Davis Mills again for the Texans. CJ Stroud is still in concussion protocol. Yeah, Texans should win this game. It's whether they do or not.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with the Titans here because again, don't feel great about it, but the Titans have something there. Cam Ward has been disappointing, but makes plays where it's like, okay, there's, this is the player that we saw at Miami. He's a real talent. They've got a few good receivers as well. Alec Ayumana looks like a really good player. On defense, again, they have players. It's just, it seems like they are in real disarray. But Houston, super inconsistent. Division weirdness. I'm going to go Tennessee here.
I'm going to go Houston because it's probably the best defensive line in the league. It's probably the worst offensive line in the league. So I just if you look at the amount of pressure the Titans allow, it is mind blowing. It really is. And you look at the amount of pressure this Houston defense produces. Give me Houston. Even with Davis Mills, give me Houston here.
Yeah.
I think Cam Moore's gonna be running for his life in this game. I really do. Right, the late slate, 4 games here. Again, after last week's terrible late slate, got 2 or 3 really good games here. Again, they were all blowouts last week, but they all were. So much so that probably 2 of the best games of the week are in this 9 p.m. slate. We'll get to them later. We'll start with the Cardinals Niners game now. The Niners are 3.5-point favorites going to Arizona. This game's available to stream on Sky Sports Plus. The Niners in need of a win. Don't know who's starting at quarterback. Saying this every week. Both quarterbacks are practicing. Brock Purdy sounds like it might be the week. It sounds like they're going to be more aggressive in practice. It's been limited for weeks. We just really don't know at this point. But we really don't think it's going to matter who pays that quarterback. To be honest with you, Niners 3.5-point favorites over the Cardinals. Here, Cardinals look spicy at points, but were horrendous against your Seahawks on Sunday.
Yeah, they were outcoached badly. Jonathan and Gannon.
That's it. Gannon looks outcoached every week.
Yeah, and on Andrew Petzing as well. Both just not good enough, unfortunately. Arizona are a good football team. They have a good group of players. They're just
their defense line is so good. We saw that against
the
Cowboys.
It's great. It's great. Walter Nolan and Calais Campbell inside. It's like that is really tough to stop. Good. Josh Sweat has been great. Like they cause Seahawks a lot of problems. They're just they make bad cornerbacks, bad safeties, average linebackers. Marvin Harrison Jr. just every week he's just making poor mistakes. Super talent, but it's all around Trey McBride. And if you take him out of the game, it's really hard for Arizona to score points. San Francisco, weird one, right? Because Mac Jones has been good. He's been really good. But Brock Purdy is your starting quarterback. You paid him a lot of money. You have to start Brock Purdy. But if he struggles, there might be a question of, because Mac Jones is on a 2-year deal. Should we, is there a quarterback debate in San Francisco potentially?
There'll be teams wanting to trade for Brock Purdy.
Yeah,
there will be teams. There'll be teams that won't be wanting to trade for him. I think he's very underrated. It's just that Mac Jones is the hot hand at the moment. It is a fascinating scenario. Again, it's like a Minnesota last year, isn't it? In a way. 3.5 points to the Niners. With how banged up they are, I just still think they're the better team. And their offense is playing well. The defense is banged up. It's starting to look really banged up now the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But they're going to score points. They're going to score more points than Arizona in the end of the day, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%. So that's why I'm bringing San Francisco. But they're just even with the injuries they have, and it's a lot. Their offense will just score points quite easily in Arizona. So I'm taking San Fran.
Okay, we'll stick in the NFC West. We'll go to obviously the game between the other 2 teams. This game is exclusive to Sky Sports Plus. This week, the Rams host the Seahawks, 2-7-2 teams. Here again, this should be such a good game. The Rams are favored by 3.5 points. How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, this game is keeping me up at night. It's the most excited I've been for a Seahawks game since Super Bowl 2015. It's the first time being a Seahawks fan in about almost a decade, genuinely. I start to feel like, okay, the Seattle team is going in the right direction and they might be really, really good. We've tread water for a long, long time. And Mike McDonald has just been fantastic. The way he coached the game against Arizona is making me feel like, wow, this guy can outcoach almost anyone in the league. The Rams are just as good on offense as Seattle are, probably a lot better actually, because Matt Stafford is the MVP. This game is a pick'em in my opinion. I'm gonna go for the Rams against my Seahawks, just because I think we may have a few injuries. Julian Love is out of the game. Jaron Reed is out, both on an injury report. They're two big losses, especially Jaron Reed at safety. I'm gonna go with the Rams here, and also Gray Zabel is on the injury report, which could be a big loss for Seattle. I'm going to go for Rams here, but this game could easily go. This could be a blowout either way.
Yeah, I'm going to go for the Rams too. Again, you said it there as a pick 'em. I just think the Rams are slightly the better team. I think the Rams probably are the best team in the league right now. So yeah, I'm going to go for LA here as well. We'll stick with the division theme. 2 more division games to go. We'll start in Cleveland. The Browns host the Ravens. Ravens are 8.5-point favourites going into this game. Obviously, they're starting to get a bit of a roll now. They're looking really good the last couple of weeks. Something to watch. Lamar didn't practice yesterday with a knee. I don't know if that's more of a precaution or anything, but that is something to watch. I think if it was more serious, we'd know. But yeah, Baltimore 8.5-point favourites. The Browns have been like competitive with Kevin Stefanski, I think, but last week was damning for that team against the Jets, because it really was damning. It's probably one of the worst offenses I've ever seen. This Browns offense, and yeah, that going against this Ravens defense, that they'd be rubbing their hands together, wouldn't they, the Ravens, because they can really they've found some groove on defense the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they have. They've looked so much more improved to the point now. They were my Super Bowl pick at the start of the season, and they were 1-5 a few weeks ago. Whereas now it's like, okay, this team can turn it around and easily win the AFC North with the way the other two teams are playing. Baltimore look good on both sides. I mean, the defense still has issues, but they're a big improvement recently, and obviously they've got Lamar Jackson, a quarterback. I think the big question about the Browns, Sam, is it time? Is it time for number 12 to come in? I think it is. I think why not? Like, Dylan Gabriel, I'm sorry, he's not going to be your quarterback moving forward. I can throw the ball further than Dylan Gabriel. Terrible mistakes. Like, he's not going to be your guy. He's a fine backup. Come on, like, he's not good enough. Shedeur Sanders, I'm sorry, he's a better talent than Dylan Gabriel. Give him a chance to play a few games. And why not see what you've got? You're going to draft a quarterback either way. Dylan Gabriel is clearly not your... I'm sorry, Cleveland fans. He's not it. Shedeur Sanders probably isn't either. But you don't know that yet. We don't know that yet. Give him a few games. I think this is a week Shedeur Sanders comes in and plays for the first time.
Well, against a team that he refused to be drafted by to be a backup as well, the Ravens.
That was wild, by the way. How could he do... Like, no, I don't want to play behind one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Like,
he would have played. He would have played like 4 or 5 games already.
Yeah, on a great offense. Like, what are you talking about? Oh yeah, how's life in Cleveland, buddy? Like, wow, what a move.
I know.
Crazy.
I get it. If he looked good in those games, a team would have traded for him as well potentially after next season. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. I'm assuming you're going Baltimore 8.5 points here.
I am going Baltimore, but however, if Shedeur Sanders comes in, I'm still picking Baltimore.
I'm going for the Ravens too. I think they're going to be unstoppable. I think for the next couple of weeks. Again, the schedule is really easy. Next couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised to see they'd be leading this division in 2 weeks' time. Which would have been crazy at 1-5, but I think they are by far the best team in this division, and I think now it's all starting to click. And then the final game in the late slate. This game is huge for the AFC in the AFC playoff picture. The 8-3 Broncos host the 5-4 Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs off a bye. Obviously, Andy Reid, great record off a bye. And because of that, the Chiefs are 4.5-point favourites going into Denver. This game is on Sky. It's also on DAZN this week. It's on 5 Action as well, so you can watch it pretty much wherever you want. It's available on free-to-air TV, which is awesome because this is going to be a really, really good game. This is it for the Kansas City. They need to win this game, don't they? Realistically, if they're going to, you like to think they're going to be a playoff team, but if they go to 5-5, they're going to have to get probably 5 or 6 more wins.
Yeah.
They've got to be careful. This is such a big game for Kansas City. Denver win so many close games. Fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a true litmus test for Denver to see, are they the team which the record suggests? I don't think they are at all. I think they're the worst 8-2, 8-2 team. 8-2,
8-3.
8-3.
So they're a bye after this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the worst team with 8 wins for this point of season that I've seen in a long time. But Bo Nix has been awful, just really, really bad. But they've still got 8 games. 8 wins. I don't see how they win this game unless Bo Nix plays a lot better than he has recently. But Kansas City they are much better than their record suggests, in my opinion. Losing that against Jacksonville was an absolute killer. That should have been a game that they won easily. They need to win this game, and I think they will.
Yeah, I think they will as well. Again, Andy Reid off a bye. You got to think if they can find a run game, they'll win this game.
Yeah.
That's the one Chiefs weakness. If you look in terms of it's like I think they pass the ball like almost 70% of the time at the moment. The Chiefs, which is just crazy.
Yeah,
like
again, not sustainable at all.
No, I know, but it's why they've lost 4 games because they can't run the football. I'm going to go for Kansas City, but I could easily see Denver at least coming within that 4 points, and so I'm not confident. But I think the Chiefs need this one badly. So yeah, I think I'm going to go for the Chiefs. And then Sunday Night Football, again, brilliant game. This Eagles-Lions. I think this probably again could be a NFC Championship preview. The Eagles are 2.5 point favorites over Detroit. Obviously, big win for them on Monday Night Football last week. What a slate of games! This is it's crazy, isn't it?
It's this is one of the best Sunday Night Football games of the season so far. This is fantastic. Dan Campbell, who at the start of the season, the Lions were sort of everyone's team of like, oh, they're not going to be very good this year. They've lost Ben Johnson, lost Aaron Glenn. Dan Campbell's my coach for the year so far. I'm a Seahawks fan who McDonald is in my conversation. He's done a fantastic job. I did think it was a little bit harsh that John Morton, who's their former offensive coordinator, who's had a tough run of defenses, Dan Campbell goes, "Oh, I'll cover plays when we're against the worst defense in the league and make me look really good." A little bit harsh to do it that week, Dan. Why didn't you do it the week before? But fair play to him. He called a really good game on offense against Washington. But they are facing a very tough defense in Philadelphia this week. Jalen Phillips' trade looks to have been a good one for Philadelphia. Made a big impact last week. This really is a pick 'em. I'm going with Detroit because it feels like they're getting hot at the right time. Philadelphia still have issues offensively. I'm not sure if you saw AJ Brown on Twitch last night asking for the ball more and complaining to Jalen Hurts. Feels like we still have a bit of issues in Philadelphia.
Also, the Lane Johnson injury as well.
Huge.
Yeah. So again, he might play, but it looked a lot worse than it was. Obviously, but I'm going to go for Detroit as well. Just purely because I feel like they're the most complete team. Like again, the Eagles, I feel like they're going to run the ball against the Eagles. They're going to, they're like built to beat a team like the Eagles. The Eagles last year. The Eagles win this game. I feel like, but this Eagles offense so inconsistent. I know what Detroit are. I don't know what Philly are. I'm going to go for Detroit here to come within at least the 2 points. And then after the great slate of games, Monday Night Football, terrible. Dallas Cowboys on primetime again. 3-5-1 Cowboys go to the 2-7 Las Vegas Raiders. Cowboys off a bye. The Cowboys are 3.5 point favorites in this game. It doesn't really matter who wins this game in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, I felt Cowboys are favorite in this one.
Yeah, I guess. Dallas, they can score points on offense for us, so they are my pick. The Raiders, people who are watching on YouTube will see Pete Carroll above my head. One of my favorite guys in football. I've read his book 5-10 times probably. Great coach, great guy. Unfortunately, he's in his Arsene Wenger era where you've stayed too long. your system isn't working anymore. You're doing the exact same things you did in Seattle that got you fired. It's week 10 now, and he's talking about they'll improve. The defense will get better. Like, no, it won't. I'm sorry. This team has regressed in every way. Geno Smith has regressed hugely. Probably should be benched at this point and see what you have in O'Connell before you draft another quarterback, I presume. I think the Raiders probably have the bleakest future in the NFL right now because they just have apart from Max Crosby, what do they have going for them?
You say that, but they've been in the too good to get a top 5 pick category for so long. They've not had a top 5 pick in years. This year might be the year to get that top 5 pick to try and start a rebuild. So maybe, maybe it's going to come a bit of fortune for Vegas because again, this regime was only going to be a temporary thing anyway.
Yeah,
realistic. So maybe it's a slight tank job in a way now with the Raiders and try and restart completely because that's again like the Dolphins. They've just been not bad enough to do a full reset. I think the Raiders fully need that. So I'm going to root for the Raiders in that aspect. I'm going to go for the Cowboys -3.5, -3.5 because again they can score points and I don't know what this Raiders offense is. So maybe Ashton Chitney has a game because Dallas can't stop anything on defense. Brock Bowers. Again, it might be a shootout. I just think Dallas are slightly the better team here. And then the two teams on the bye are the Saints and the Colts. Next up is DFS Stars, which is our weekly daily fantasy segment, which identifies 5 must-have players in your lineup on Fantasy Gameday this Sunday, which is the UK's dedicated daily fantasy app. It's week 11 on the app this week, which is just crazy how fast the NFL season's gone. There are only 2 teams on a bye this week, so there are plenty of players to choose from in your Sunday Stars competition this week, and therefore there are plenty of strategies too. Before I give you my picks for this week, let's recap how my 5 DFS stars from last week got on. And spoiler alert, I'm going back to the running back strategy as a captain because second straight week in a row, it's not worked out for us picking a receiver as a captain. Look, Jackson Smith-Njigba, decent choice. Obviously, he only played about 40% of snaps. For various reasons, still caught 5 balls for 93 yards and touchdown before the Seahawks already ran away with the game and stopped passing the ball and everything. He came in at receiver 9 and he hardly played, and he would have scored you 40.6 points if you had him as your captain last week. Not a terrible pick by any means whatsoever. It's just ultimately, though, I think I should have gone for running back as my captain. Even though there was no Jonathan Taylor, no Bijan Robinson in the competition last week. The top 3 highest performing captains were all running backs, and then it was Trey McBride. So realistically, I should have gone for a running back. At quarterback, it was Jared Goff was a great pick actually. To be fair, he had the second highest fantasy scoring performance of the week, throwing for 320 yards and 3 touchdowns. But then from there, it wasn't great. My running back pick on the other hand was just terrible. It was Quinton Judkins just struggled against the Jets defense. That traded away their best run stopper as well. He was down in the high 20s in terms of running backs in fantasy this week. Same at receiver 2. Panthers passing game struggled, so Tater and McMillan was a bad pick. Only caught 5 passes for 60 yards. It wasn't terrible for him. That was decent for a rookie receiver. There was just way better value out there, I think. He came in the 30s in terms of receiver scoring, so that was a bad pick. And then when it went majorly wrong was for the second week in a row was at tight end. Again, this time it was a Jets passing game, really not getting going. That cost us. Mason Taylor caught just 1 pass for 4 yards. And again, it's just because the Jets can get, Justin Fields had a terrible, terrible game against that Browns defense. The Jets special teams won in that game. Obviously, I wasn't to know that the flow of the game, but 3 bad weeks in a row. I'm really keen to end this slide. Hopefully, this is the week that slide ends. If you listener are sitting there fancying getting involved with the Fantasy Gameday app, new users can actually get a free £7.50 game entry if they sign up to Fantasy Gameday with the code FULL10. That's FULL10, FULL10. New users can get that free game credit added to their account when they enter their first lineup on the app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Right, here are my 5 players that you need to have in your daily fantasy lineup on Fantasy Game Day this Sunday. As always, I'll start my pick for a captain, which is the player in your lineup that gets the points. And I've gone for Josh Jacobs as my captain this week because I love his matchup against the Giants defense. Only the Bengals defense has been a better fantasy opponent for running backs than the Giants so far this year, with backs scoring on average 22.2 points when they face New York. Only the Titans and the Bills have allowed more rushing touchdowns a game than the Giants, and then the last 3 games have allowed 1.7 rushing touchdowns per game as well. Jacobs has 11 rushing touchdowns on the season. That's the second highest total among running backs, behind Jonathan Taylor's 15. He's also just outside the top 10 in terms of target share in the passing game as well. He's a true number 1 back, and he's going up against a Giants defense that has struggled against running backs so far this year. I fancy a punt on him as a third most expensive captain at £8,800. Obviously, after going expensive at captain, I've picked more budget-friendly options the rest of the way, and that'll start at the quarterback position, where I've gone for Davis Mills at just 4,800. It's already been confirmed that Mills will start against Tennessee this week and plays for CJ Stroud, who of course is in the concussion protocol. So I've gone for Mills, who is going up against a really poor Titans defense, of course. He showcased that connection he has with Nico Collins last week, and I fancy that to continue this week. I'm not expecting him to be the highest scoring quarterback for a second week running. I'm expecting Davis Mills to have an average game, but do I think he can lead Houston to victory? Yes. Are the Houston defense going to force Cam Ward into turnovers and get more possessions for this offense? Yes. I think he's worth a shot as the 21st most expensive quarterback on Sunday. I've gone for Jalen Warren at running back, my running back pick for this week, for one reason and one reason only. He's going to play against the Bengals defense, which is one of the worst you've ever seen. It's by far the worst defense against the rush in the league, allowing 166 rushing yards on the ground a game, and the second most total touchdowns to running backs on the season as well. They've been so bad that on average running backs are scoring 28.4 points when they face the Bengals defense. Since the Steelers' bye week, Warren has averaged 4.9 yards per carry, which is the 9th in the league among running backs with at least 50 attempts. So he's one of the best running backs in the league since the Steelers' bye week after the Dublin game. And he has the 8th highest yards of the contact in that period as well too. So he's breaking tackles. The Bengals can't tackle for their life. I really like Warren's value at 6,200. It is the 8th most expensive running back choice this week. Again, I've gone budget the rest of the way. At receiver, I quite like the look of Khalil Shakir this week in the absence, or the likely absence, of Dalton Kincaid against the Bucs. Obviously, Kincaid sustained a hamstring injury against the Dolphins. Shakir was Allen's go-to option after Kincaid went out of that game, and he got the underneath targets that would have gone to Kincaid. His percentage in the slot went up as well. It was one of the most snaps he's had this season so far as well. Tampa's defense has been great on the outside, but it showed defending running backs in the pass game and slot receivers like Shakir in the pass game as well. So he's Bill's number 1 target in terms of target share, of how good Tampa's run defense is. James Cook might struggle to get going as well. So I can see Allen going Shakir's way 9 or 10 times, like he did 9 times last week. I love his value at 4,800, the 23rd highest price for a receiver. Again, I think Khalil Shakir is probably going to score 9 or 10 points based on receptions alone. So I really like his value again, 4,800, really good, and a good matchup for him this week. And then finally, my tight end pick for Sunday is Oronde Gadsden. The Chargers. While it was Quentin Johnston and Keenan Allen getting a lot of the ball in the first portion of the season for the Chargers in recent weeks, obviously Herbert has got the ball out of his hands really quickly because the offensive line just isn't there for him anymore. And that has seen Gadsden and McConkey really rack up the fantasy points in recent weeks. And Gadsden has a great matchup this week going up against a Jags defense that has really struggled against tight ends. And in fact, Titans have averaged 11.8 fantasy points playing the Jags. Anthony Campani's defense so far this season. Only the Bengals have been better fantasy opponents for tight ends on the defense than the Jags, who've allowed 7 touchdowns and 72 yards per game to tight ends this season. Gadsden's expensive at 4,200. He's tied second with Travis Kelce and George Kittle, but he has the second highest yards per route run of all tight ends available in the competition on Sunday Stars this Sunday. So I think he is worth it. I really do. So that wraps up my 5 picks for this week's Sunday Stars competition on Fantasy Gameday. My 5 DFS Stars for the week are Josh Jacobs, Davis Mills, Jalen Warren, Khalil Shakir, and Oronde Gadsden. Best of luck if you're playing along, and don't forget, new users can still sign up with the code FULL10 to get a free £7.50 game entry. Remember to please gamble responsibly, and only if you're over 18 or based in the UK or Northern Ireland. Right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Big thank you, Charlie, for joining me. Of course, always great to have you on, mate. Do you want to let the listeners know where they can find your work at and what you've got coming up?
Yeah, at Charlie Reach PLC, Daily Mirror, Daily Express, and Irish Star. More of the same, NFL throughout the season. I'll actually be away for 3 weeks on my wedding and honeymoon, so a bit quiet for me after tonight. But yeah, we'll have coverage throughout the season. Hopefully come back on this podcast a few times and talk to you some more, Sam.
Awesome, thanks. Congratulations for all that. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider leaving us, as I said, a quick rating, quick review on your podcast platform. It really helps more NFL fans find the pod. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like the video, subscribe as well, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our weekly coverage. That's all for today. I'll see you next week, where we will look ahead to week 12. Enjoy your Sunday, everyone, and I'll see you next time.